Hello, welcome to day 13 of A Course in Miracles. Today we continue reading chapter 2, part 6, Fear and Conflict. If you're following on with your Course in Miracles book, page 28 towards the bottom there. And I'd just like to repeat the golden passage, as I would refer to it, from yesterday, which goes like this. I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent Him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because He who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever He wishes, knowing He goes there with me. I will be healed as I let Him teach me to heal. And going along now, fear and conflict. Being afraid seems to be involuntary, something beyond our own control. Yet I have said already that only constructive acts should be involuntary. My control can take over everything that does not matter, while my guidance can direct everything that does, if you so choose. Fear cannot be controlled by me, but it can be self-controlled. Okay, please teach us. How do we do that? Fear prevents me from giving you my control. Fear prevents Christ from giving you His control. The presence of fear shows that you have raised body thoughts to the level of the mind. This removes them from my control and makes you feel personally responsible for them. This is an obvious confusion of levels. I do not foster level confusion, but you must choose to correct it. So what we see at the body level, we confuse with the mind level. So when we get afraid of things relating to the body, it's giving them, like we're getting confused and giving them the same importance as that of the level of the mind. This removes them from Christ's control, makes you feel personally responsible for them, and this is obviously confusion of levels. So while God doesn't foster level confusion between body and mind levels, we must choose to correct it. That's something we need to do ourselves. You would not excuse insane behavior on your part by saying you could not help it. Why should you condone insane thinking? There is a confusion here that you would do well to look at clearly. Alright. So if we're acting completely insane, we don't just say, I can't help it. I can't help but, go running across a busy road in the middle of the traffic. I can't help it. Well, or no, we can help it. We have control over our actions, right? You don't just say, whoops, I just had a moment of insane behavior and I ran across a busy road at peak hour traffic. No, that's not really an excuse just to do it for no reason. So why should your thinking be any different? Why should you condone insane thinking? That is clearly a sign of being confused. And we would do well to look at it clearly because it seems then that being afraid in our thinking, it's a thought form. When we feel afraid, it's like an insane thought. You may believe that you are responsible for what you do. but not for what you think. The truth is that you are responsible for what you think, because it is only at this level that you can exercise choice. What you do comes from what you think. You cannot separate yourself from the truth by giving autonomy to behavior. You cannot separate yourself from the truth by giving autonomy to behavior. This is controlled by me automatically as soon as you place what you think under my guidance. Whenever you are afraid, it is a sure sign that you have allowed your mind to miscreate and have not allowed me to guide it. It is pointless to believe that controlling the outcome of misthought can result in healing. When you are fearful, you have chosen wrongly. That is why you feel responsible for it. You must change your mind, not your behavior, and this is a matter of willingness. You do not need guidance except at the mind level. Correction belongs only at the level where change is possible. Change does not mean anything at the symptom level, where it cannot work. So I guess then that it follows on that the body is the level where symptoms may appear, but the causal level is always in the mind. And it's at that level of the mind where change is possible. So the correction of fear is your responsibility. When you ask for release from fear, you're implying that it isn't, or that it is not. So, wow, it really requires that we are active in our free will to choose to correct fear when we're thinking that, when we're feeling that. So instead of just asking God, please release me from this fear, you should ask instead for help in the conditions that have brought the fear about. These conditions always entail a willingness to be separate. At that level, you can help it. Wow. It's quite a lot in that short little dot point there. It's basically saying here that the conditions for bringing fear about in our thinking stems from our willingness to be separate. Have you thought of it like that before? I have forgotten about that bit. That's really interesting. I have moments during the day. I have a toddler. Even this morning I had a moment where it was time to line up and buy the shopping, and he didn't want to know about it. He wanted to keep wheeling the little basket around and going where I couldn't see him. And I guess fear kicked in there because, well, I wanted to keep my spot in the line. I wanted to get out of there quick, smart. But, of course, I wanted to be able to see what my little boy was doing. So he was having a bit of a tantrum and attracting a lot of attention. And I guess you could say I felt embarrassed. And all these eyes on me, looking at me. And then my mind starts thinking, oh my goodness, what are they thinking? And, it's very interesting because at that moment I did feel separate from other people. I felt like I was being judged, or, that they were against me, I suppose. These kind of thoughts subconsciously were going on. And I was getting like quite, just a bit on edge and stuff. And perhaps if I had made a choice to put my thoughts in that moment under God's direction, maybe it would have been a different scenario. I might have taken a few deep breaths and realized, hang on a minute, I'm still connected to all these people here. They probably understand what I'm going through. Maybe if I made a quick eye contact and smiled at someone, it might completely change my thoughts and feelings around. That could have been a miracle experience. But I didn't do that. And in the moment, I guess I was willing to be separate from everyone else and willing to feel like a victim in a way, like as if I'm being attacked silently by all these onlookers, which was complete miscreation in my mind. I have no idea what anyone was thinking. They may have been sending me love and compassion, but I chose to be separate in that moment. So I could have helped that, and that was my responsibility. And now, hopefully, next time, if that ever occurs again, I might stop and just say a quick prayer, and hopefully the outcome will be as the possibility I just invented here. And I'll smile at everyone. Hey, how you going? Yeah, you know what this is like? Yeah, all good in the hood. And it could be, the highlight of my day. Okay, you are much too tolerant of mind wandering and are passively condoning your mind's miscreations. We just let it go, inventing all these stories and ideas that are probably nowhere near the truth. And we just let it go, let it wander off into its own little world. Time to take action. The particular result does not matter, but the fundamental error does. So I've got a tickling nose. The correction, I'm not going to worry what I look like here. I'm not going to be separate. It's okay. I think they're laughing with me. Okay. The correction is always the same. Before you choose to do anything, ask me if your choice is in accord with mine. If you are sure that it is, there will be no fear. Wow. So next time you have a little 2-year-old throwing a tantrum in the middle of the shop, just first ask Jesus, what do I do here? Please help me choose in accordance to your will, and then the fear will be gone. And just allow divine guidance and opportunity to miraculously transform the situation. The answer will come to you. Fear is always a sign of strain, arising whenever what you want conflicts with what you do. Another picture just to paint this with an example. Again, going back this morning, I was in a moment of strain because what I wanted was conflicting with what I was doing. I wanted to have my little boy quietly hold my hand and wait with me in the line. That's what I wanted. But instead of doing that or even encouraging him to do that, I just sort of picked him up and he was just crying, and I just was holding him because I wasn't calm myself. So there was a strain there because what I wanted was conflicting with what I was doing. So again, fear is always a sign of strain, arising whenever what you want conflicts with what you do. This situation arises in two ways. First, you can choose to do conflicting things either simultaneously or successively. This produces conflicted behavior which is intolerable to you because the part of the mind that wants to do something else is outraged. Or second, you can behave as you think you should, but without entirely wanting to do so. This produces consistent behavior, but entails great strain. For some people, this is a way of life. They think they should, it might be just working in an office job. They think they should do that because that's how they've been, They've been studying all their life to do that or whatever, but they don't really want to do that. But they're afraid that they're not going to have enough money if they do what they really want. So then they feel the strain. That's an example of that one probably. And then the first example, you can choose to do conflicting things, either at the same time or one after the other successively. This produces conflicted behaviour, which is intolerable to you because of the part of the mind that wants to do something else is outraged. Could be smoking, that you don't really want to be smoking, but at the same time you want to quit smoking, you're smoking, and it's intolerable to you, and the mind is then outraged. So in both cases, the mind and the behaviour are out of accord, resulting in a situation in which you are doing what you do not wholly want to do. This arouses a sense of coercion that usually produces rage, and projection is likely to follow. Or we may say we take it out on someone else. Coercion. I think that's another word for basically saying you feel like you have to do something, or maybe even a slave to something. So if you feel like you are under a pressure to keep doing something that you don't really want to be doing, you're going to get quite angry. And rage could result. And after that, projection. So everyone else around you is going to cop it too. Yep. Okay. Whenever there is fear, it is because you have not made up your mind. Your mind is therefore split, and your behaviour inevitably becomes erratic. Ooh. Whenever there is fear, it's because you have not made up your mind. Interesting. Correcting at the behavioural level can shift the error from the first to the second type, but will not obliterate the fear. So it doesn't matter how you might change what you're doing or your actions, it's not going to change the fear, which is at the level of the mind. It is possible to reach a state in which you bring your mind under my guidance without conscious effort, but this implies a willingness that you have not yet developed. The Holy Spirit cannot ask more than you are willing to do. The strength to do comes from your undivided decision. There is no strain in doing God's will as soon as you recognize that it is also your own. The lesson here is quite simple, but particularly apt to be overlooked. I will therefore repeat it, urging you to listen. Only your mind can produce fear. It does so whenever it is conflicted in what it wants, producing inevitable strain because wanting and doing are discordant. This can be corrected only by accepting a unified goal. The first corrective step in undoing the error is to know first that the conflict is an expression of fear. Say to yourself that you must somehow have chosen not to love, or the fear could not have arisen. Okay. Right. So imagine, I'm trying to imagine for myself here, to be that, I guess, disciplined once we start building up, our practicing of putting our mind under, or in accordance with God's will, which is really our will. Once we're doing that all the time and being conscious and not allowing our mind to wander off as it so easily does, and how we so easily let it, once we start getting a bit of discipline in our thinking, imagine then that in a moment when you are about to perhaps express rage, that you'll be able to say to yourself, I have not chosen love in this moment. If I had chosen love, I would not feel fear or rage right now. Then the whole process of correction becomes nothing more than a series of pragmatic steps in the larger process of accepting the atonement as the remedy. Okay, so we are going through these steps. These steps may be summarized in this way. Know first that this is fear. Fear arises from lack of love. The only remedy for lack of love is perfect love. Perfect love is the atonement. Okay, thank you. That's what I was looking for. A nice, punchy definition for atonement. Atonement is perfect love. I have emphasized that the miracle or the expression of atonement is always a sign of respect from the worthy to the worthy. The recognition of this worth is re-established by the atonement. Okay, so perfect love is what will help us recognize that we are worthy. It is obvious then that when you are afraid, you have placed yourself in a position where you need atonement. Need perfect love to help me in this situation. You have done something loveless, having chosen without love. This is precisely the situation for which the atonement was offered. Right, thank you. The need for the remedy inspired its establishment. So all those moments of fear that you may experience 100 times a day, or you might only experience every now and again, or hardly at all. You might think you hardly ever feel that way. Nonetheless, whenever that occurs, doesn't really matter how frequently or not, we are all in need of the atonement for the times when we do feel afraid, the times that we have chosen without love. And that's what the atonement was established for, to help get us out of that frame of mind, those moments of fear. Perfect love, call on God, the atonement will set you free from it. As long as you recognize only the need for the remedy, you will remain fearful. However, as soon as you accept the remedy, you have abolished the fear. This is how true healing occurs. So it's all well and good to go, oh yeah, okay, and I did choose something like out of a lack of love right now. You can recognize that you need the remedy, but you'll still be fearful. When you accept the remedy, okay, help me to choose with love right now. When you accept that and imply it, you abolish the fear. You can turn the situation around. And this is how true healing occurs. Everyone experiences fear, yet it would take very little right thinking to realize why fear occurs. Few appreciate the real power of the mind, and no one remains fully aware of it all the time. However, if you hope to spare yourself from fear, there are some things you must realize, and realize fully. The mind is very powerful and never loses its creative force. It never sleeps. Every instant it is creating. Whoa. Okay. It is hard to recognize that thought and belief combine into a power surge that can literally move mountains. Does that explain that Bible verse? Faith that can move mountains. When we think and believe, that can create a power surge so powerful that it can literally move mountains. It appears at first glance that to believe such power about yourself is arrogant, but that is not the real reason you do not believe it. You prefer to believe that your thoughts cannot exert real influence because you are actually afraid of them. You're afraid of your thoughts. I'm afraid of my thoughts. This may allay awareness of the guilt, but at the cost of perceiving the mind as impotent. Okay. Allay. This may allay awareness of the guilt. So we prefer not to believe that our thoughts are really that powerful because we're afraid of our thoughts. And even though it may take away our awareness of the guilt, it is at the cost of perceiving the mind as impotent. Okay, so we're kind of thinking, oh, well, my thoughts aren't that powerful, so I'm not going to feel guilty about it. But then by doing so, by thinking that way, we're perceiving the mind as impotent. Like, what's impotent? Like, kind of powerless. If you believe that what you think is ineffectual, you may cease to be afraid of it, but you're hardly likely to respect it. Are you? You're not going to respect your mind if you think it's not really effective anyway. It might take away the fear of how powerful your mind is, but you're not going to be respectful of it. There are no idle thoughts. All thinking produces form at some level. All right, and here ends chapter 2, part 6, fear and conflict. Any thoughts? Please share them in the comments below. Tomorrow we will continue the subject with cause and effect. And now we will go to our lesson for the day, which follows on from yesterday's lesson 12. And lesson 12, where are you? Lesson 12. I've got a few bookmarks in here. And for some reason, it's because I had it open and I took the bookmark out. And then I moved back and forwards, and I'm going to stay in love while I find it to remain calm and peaceful. Okay. Yesterday, I am upset because I see a meaningless world. 13. A meaningless world engenders fear. No, we did that one yesterday. I'm looking at a meaningless world. A meaningless world engenders fear because I think I am in competition with God. Alright, so we're actually on 14. God did not create a meaningless world. It's good to know. The idea for today is, of course, the reason why a meaningless world is impossible. What God did not create does not exist. And everything that does exist exists as He created it. The world you see has nothing to do with reality. It is of your own making and does not exist. What? This is where it gets really fun and interesting, this course. So it's starting to really get interesting, isn't it? The exercises for today are to be practiced with eyes closed throughout. The mind searching period should be short, a minute at most. Do not have more than 3 practice periods with today's idea unless you find them comfortable. If you do, it will be because you really understand what they're for. The idea for today is another step in learning to let go of the thoughts that you have written on the world and see the Word of God in their place. The early steps in this exchange, which can truly be called salvation, can be quite difficult and even quite painful. Some of them will lead you directly into fear. You will not be left there. You will go far beyond it. Our direction is toward perfect safety and perfect peace. With eyes closed, think of all the horrors in the world that cross your mind. Name each one as it occurs to you, and then deny its reality. God did not create it, and so it is not real. Say, for example, God did not create the war, and so it is not real. God did not create that airplane crash, and so it is not real. God did not create that tsunami, and therefore it is not real. Suitable subjects for the application of today's idea also include anything you are afraid might happen to you or to anyone about whom you are concerned. In each case, name the disaster quite specifically. Do not use general terms. For example, do not say, God did not create illness, but God did not create cancer or heart attacks or whatever may arouse fear in you. This is your personal repertoire of horrors at which you are looking. These things are part of the world you see. Some of them are shared illusions, and others are part of your personal hell. It does not matter. What God did not create can only be in your own mind apart from His. Therefore, it has no meaning. In recognition of this fact, conclude the practice periods by repeating today's idea. God did not create a meaningless world. The idea for today can, of course, be applied to anything that disturbs you during the day, aside from the practice periods. Be very specific in applying it. Say, God did not create a meaningless world. He did not create toddler tantrums, and so it is not real. Or, God did not create a meaningless world. He did not create someone being murdered in the city last night, and so it is not real. Well, yeah, this is pretty full on for the mind to try and comprehend the depth of this. And as it says here, it might plunge you straight into fear, even practicing this. But don't worry, you will not be left there. You will go far beyond it. So recognize that if you do feel discomfort, or even like you want to stop, that's why there's only a few. It only recommends 3 and no more than a minute today. Again, do try to give it a go. If you feel very, very uncomfortable, then feel free to make it shorter. The idea is that with practice and doing it a few times throughout the day, just for short bursts, it'll be enough to get the idea in your mind anyway. So don't worry, God's taking us on a journey far beyond thoughts that we find quite horrific and disturbing and fearful that we might not even really want to think about. And God is going to totally bless your mind and set it free from all these worries and fears that really do miscreate in our lives a type of hell, because what we think is what we experience. So this is just another step of unloading this heaviness and releasing or letting it be taken off your shoulders. Like God will just free you from that heaviness and that painful kind of thinking. So keep on with it. It is step by step, piano piano, softly softly, day by day. And again, it is a miraculous journey that we're taking, and I'm so glad to be a part of it with you. May you be blessed, and may you also experience a sense of freedom as you do practice these exercises today. Because once we really understand that anything that is not of God's perfect love is not real, it's not really true, it doesn't really exist, then that is actually incredibly wonderful to experience living like that, which I'm still learning, of course, but even getting glimpses is really awesome. Okay, better go. It's getting long. All right, have a great day, and see you soon. Ciao.